In the shadowed era of clan feuds and primeval rituals, the harsh lands of ancient Ireland bore witness to a saga steeped in betrayal and spectral vengeance. This dark tale, anchored in the blood-soaked soil of the Connacht region, unfurled amidst the rivalry of two brothers, Cian and Oisín, heirs to the chieftain throne of their venerable tribe. Cian the Elder was a man carved from the very crags of his homeland, stoic, just, and revered, embodying the spirit of the ancient druidic laws. Oisín, younger by 3 winters, was as tempestuous as the coastal storms, his ambitions shadowed by a brooding intensity and an insatiable hunger for power. Their father, Chief Oisín, old and battle-scarred, felt the weight of his years and the approach of his tenure's twilight. The tribe looked to him for the decision of succession, a choice that loomed over the brothers like an impending storm. Oisín, guided by tradition and the whispered counsel of his druid advisors, prepared to pass his mantle to Cian during the festival of Samhain, when the veil between the living and the dead thinned and the spirits of ancestors walked the earth. As the festival approached, whispers of dissent grew among the shadows. Oisín, driven by a seething jealousy that festered within his heart, sought out the forbidden knowledge of the dark druid, a banished mystic residing beyond the sacred groves. Under the cloak of night, shrouded by the mist that rose from the meandering river Shannon, Oisín met with the dark druid, whose eyes flickered with the malevolent joy of chaos. "Power over death, over spirit, over blood," the druid hissed, handing Oisín a vial of black ichor, "to bind the soul of the elder and clear the path to your destiny. But beware, the spirits demand their due." Armed with the cursed potion, Oisín returned to the fold, his heart steeled against the coming betrayal. On the eve of Samhain, as the tribe gathered around the roaring bonfire, casting offerings into the flames to honor their ancestors, Oisín poured the dark elixir into Cian's drinking horn. The elder brother, unknowing, toasted to the spirits and drank deeply, sealing his doom with each swallow. As the bonfire's flames danced higher, touching the starless sky, Cian's strength ebbed, his body crumpling to the earth like a fallen oak. The tribe erupted into chaos, their cries piercing the night as they mourned their would-be chieftain. Oisín, with feigned sorrow and a serpent's tongue, ascended as the new leader, his path cleared by fratricide. Yet as the days grew darker and the winter's bite deepened, so too did the air around the tribe thicken with an ominous chill. Cian's spirit, wronged and restless, was not bound by the druid's dark magic as intended. Instead, it returned, ethereal and wrathful, seen at the edges of the forest or within the mist that blanketed the river at dawn. The specter of Cian began to haunt Oisín, appearing to him with eyes of fire and a voice like the winter wind. "Traitor's blood shall paint the stones," the ghost whispered, haunting Oisín's every step, turning his triumph into a waking nightmare. Thus was the curse of the first vengeful spirit wrought upon the earth, a tale of brother against brother, where the echoes of betrayal invited a spectral vengeance that would sear its chilling lesson into the annals of the tribe for all time. As winter clenched its icy fingers around the heart of Connacht, the tribe of Cian and Oisín fell into despair. The crops failed, under a frost that seemed to seep deeper into the soil with each passing moon, and the livestock grew thin, their ribs stark against their flanks. Whispers of the elder brother's spectral sightings curdled into tales of terror among the villagers, as more reported glimpses of Cian's vengeful spirit roaming the frost-laden fields or appearing beside the cold, flickering hearths of their homes. Oisín, now chieftain, found his rule marked not by prosperity, but by a creeping dread that gnawed at the edges of his soul. Sleep fled from him, and when it did find him, it brought nightmares of Cian's cold, accusing gaze. His waking hours were filled with the wary looks of his tribespeople, who began to question the nature of Cian's untimely demise. The air within the chieftain's hall grew thick with suspicion and fear. On one particularly bleak night, as a storm raged over Connacht, hurling rain like spears against the thatched roofs, Oisín sat alone in the great hall. The fire had dwindled to embers, casting ghostly shadows against the stone walls. Above the howl of the wind, a faint, otherworldly whisper reached Oisín's ears, a sound so chilling it seemed to freeze the very marrow of his bones. He turned, and there, in the flickering shadows, stood Cian, his visage pale and eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "You cannot rule over the dead," Cian's voice echoed, as ethereal as the wind itself, "and you shall not find peace in the realm of the living." Oisín, desperate and haunted by his deeds, sought out the dark druid once more. His journey through the storm-lashed woods was perilous. Ancient trees groaned under the weight of the storm, and shadows lurked within every twist and turn of the path. When he finally reached the druid's lair, he was met with the old mystic's knowing, sinister smile. "You return to the well of forbidden knowledge, but the price has doubled," the druid croaked, his voice as rough as the bark of the trees surrounding his dark abode. "I seek only to bind my brother's spirit to stop this torment," Oisín pleaded, his voice ragged with fear and desperation. The druid, with eyes gleaming cruelly in the dim light of his hut, handed Oisín another vial, this one filled with a swirling, luminescent liquid. "Drink this at the stroke of midnight, under the eye of the full moon, and speak the words I teach you. Only then will your brother's spirit be bound to the underworld." Oisín hurried back, clutching the vial tightly, as if it were his last lifeline. The storm's fury seemed to mock him, echoing the turmoil within his soul. Upon his return, he prepared for the ritual, his heart pounding with a mix of dread and hope. As the moon reached its zenith and bathed the land in its eerie light, Oisín stood in the center of a hastily drawn circle of ancient runes, just outside the boundaries of his village. The wind howled around him, bending the trees to its will. He uncorked the vial and drank the luminescent liquid, its taste metallic and bitter on his tongue. Then he began to chant the words the druid had taught him, each syllable trembling in the charged air. But as he spoke, the ground beneath him began to tremble, and a terrible realization dawned upon him. The ritual was not to bind Cian's spirit, but to summon it directly before him. As the last word left his lips, the earth cracked open, and from its depths rose Cian, not as the brother he had once known, but as a spectral fury, his eyes blazing with righteous anger. The air around them crackled with spectral energy, and the wind carried the anguished cries of their ancestors. "You have sealed your fate, brother," Cian's voice boomed, resonating with the power of the unquiet dead. "For your betrayal, you shall know no peace, neither in this world nor the next." Oisín, realizing too late the druid's treachery, fell to his knees, pleading for mercy not from Cian, but from the forces he had unwittingly unleashed. But there was to be no mercy for him. The spectral Cian approached, his form growing more formidable, and with a gesture of his ghostly hand, unleashed the fury of the damned upon Oisín. The storm reached its crescendo, and as lightning split the sky, Oisín's screams were swallowed by the roar of the wind. The village awoke the next morning to find their chieftain gone, with only scorched earth where he had last been seen. Fear and respect for the power of the ancestral spirits filled their hearts, and they spoke of that night in hushed tones, a night when the veil between worlds was torn by vengeance and betrayal. Thus the legend of the first vengeful spirit and his tragic sibling rivalry became a cautionary tale whispered in the clan for generations, a stark reminder of the price of power and the eternal watch of the spirits of the dead over the living.
Dark skies and a tale untold, a brother's wrath in days of old, a ghostly wail across the moor, a dance with death forevermore. An eerie step, the legend stood in ancient lands of Irish wood.